Welcome in, everyone, to another Bat Flip Entertainment College Football Show. Damien here with Hank. This week, we're going to talk about some games from Week 3, obviously. Then we'll go over a litany of different topics. We got talking about Is It Time to Panic with Notre Dame and Clemson. We got firings from Virginia Tech, UCLA. We'll talk about some of the big games coming up. Also, transfer portal change is a big deal this week. I think I have some interesting thoughts about the way they did that. And we'll talk about some of the other contenders and things going around the game of college football at the moment. But you had a big week this week with the backyard brawl down there with West Virginia versus Pitt. Last time for what, a few
4 years?
years? 4 years?
2029, they're coming back.
Yeah, well, you handled business this time.
We did. And the old adage is if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. But how many do you have if you have three?
I like 5, I thought, actually.
Well, there's 5 that could play. There were 3 that played, though.
Yeah. What
Turns
a wild
out
thing.
the first one was the one that was the correct one.
Yeah. When they were like, hey, there's 5 quarterbacks they might play today, I was like, Pitt's definitely going to win this, right? Like, because we've always talked about it. If you don't have a quarterback, you know.
They're
And
running backs in Rich Rod's system.
Yeah, basically. But man, that was a hell of a game.
And I did just see an interesting stat with those two. They're tied for second in the country in sacks. But they sacked each other like 6 times last week. So
that was an interesting game. And then obviously we had the Georgia-Tennessee game, which was happening at the same time, basically. I was trying to keep up with both of those while also watching my Ducks play against Northwestern there. Was kind of hard because I wasn't home on my setup. So I was kind of flipping back and forth, use the new multi-view feature on ESPN, on the
how'd that work?
I don't love it, man. Like, I had the 2 games on. I put it to 4 games later because with 2 games, there's just a bunch of wasted space. Like, they don't take advantage of the full screen with it. They just like leave it like in the middle of the screen. Like, it's like if I'm only doing 2 games,
flip them on top of each other.
Do something to make it better. And I also wish that they had the alternative angles during the multi-view, because I much prefer to watch the Skycast view because I like to see what's actually happening, and you can't do that. You can't do that on those games. So I wish that's something they do moving forward. But both of those games were crazy. Like I said, I had picked Pitt, and then I picked Georgia actually to beat Tennessee.
You got that on the backside.
I got that on the backside. I was really worried about it for a while there, especially I think Tennessee went up
21-7.
Yeah,
right before the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is not going well. And then they ended up turning it around there. But again, like 2 fantastic games. To really start off the slate with. So I couldn't have been more happy as a college football fan.
Do you think that says more about Georgia or Tennessee in that one? Because Tennessee did this a few times. They've started out heavy against Georgia, but then don't finish it.
I think it says more about Tennessee than I think it does Georgia. I was more skeptical and am more skeptical about Tennessee and Joey Aguilar through the full year. Like, Joey Aguilar's looked really good so far, but you saw Georgia made the changes necessary after that first quarter, and you saw him really kind of struggle with it, which Tennessee's also primarily been known as like that one read system. If the first read's not there, you're kind of screwed. And was it Brazel? Is that the name?
Yes.
He had a great first quarter, great game, but if he's not open, then it feels like no one really is. And I feel like Georgia is there's someone who adapts. They adapt really well. They saw what was happening, and then they made the adjustments there. So I'm not really worried about Georgia. I think Gunnar Stockton did show a little bit more in this game than I had saw from him. I was a little worried with him, what he had shown so far, but I think he showed a bunch of improvement, especially throughout that game. Early on, you could see he was struggling. Then they kind of adapted a little bit later on. So I'm more worried about Tennessee with it, and I don't think it tells us as much about Georgia, outside of maybe Gunnar Stockton's finally figuring it out after his 3rd game.
Stockton, I don't have an issue with him. I think they protect him enough. They're going to hand the ball off enough. 55 carries last week.
Yeah.
Tennessee's defense better than most in the country, I would say. So they only ran it at about 4 yards a clip, but that's enough to keep Stockton covered. So as he learns and gets better, it's only going to be better. The defense, we've seen this a little bit more in the SEC the last few years as offense evolves, kind of these higher back and forth scoring games never used to see.
Right.
That's the one thing I would like to see going forward. Is Georgia's defense still what it has been the last 5 or 10 years, or are they falling off a little bit too? Because they might be able to get got if it's not as good.
Well, I mean, I think it's the way they're chugging out defensive players right now out of that organization.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to consistently replace those at the top level.
Keep 12 points a game.
Yeah, like you'll see this. I like you said, also offenses are evolving. The game of college football is evolving itself. I mean, we've seen the game of football technically evolve too with the NFL. Like everything's becoming more offensive heavy. They're coming more pro offense. A lot more defensive penalties are coming into the game. So I don't think we're going to get to the day where it's like, you know, you're going to get 6-3 games in the SEC every week like you used to.
But I loved it.
And we did. I mean, those classic LSU Alabama battles when it was like 6-3 and they're just 45 carries on each side, you know, just trying to like, there's just, you're not going to get
12-yard punt return is the biggest thing that happens.
Yeah. Like you're just waiting for one of the punters to shank a punt so you get in field goal range. Yeah. It's like, I just don't feel like you're going to get that nowadays. Athletes are too good. I mean, coaches are evolving as well, but it's so hard to keep up defensively with the style of games that are coming and the level of athletes that are there too, you know?
Yeah.
So I just don't think we're going to get to so defensive battle oriented anymore in anywhere really. But let's jump to talking about the state of Florida, because we had a big game also between, actually 2 big games really. You had South Florida at Miami, which I was buying. I drank the Kool-Aid. I drank the South Florida Kool-Aid.
I got a sip of it, and I did sprinkle some on that spread.
Yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid. I'll fully admit I did. And then I looked down and they lost 49-12 to Miami, and I was like, oh, maybe I took too big of a drink.
The Canes defense is for real.
Yeah. You know, obviously we saw South Florida beat Boise State. We saw them beat Florida, but I think that should tell us probably the status of those 2 programs.
Yep.
I think Boise State, I kind of anticipated. I think I even called it initially. Or at least I took the points on that game. I knew it was going to be close. But when you're losing a guy like Ashton Jens, he had a small program like that's going to do a bunch. You know, then they beat Florida, and I was like, well, they beat Florida. Like, well, there's that. But we also saw Florida lose again, and DJ Lagway looks bad.
That was a question I asked last week. That was one of those same, like I asked with Georgia, Tennessee. Does that say more about South Florida or more about Florida? One way or the other. And I think, again, we're split, because I think it does say a lot about South Florida, but it also tells me that Florida's still not where it need to be.
Yeah, I definitely think it says more about Florida than it did South Florida at the time. Because after the game, I mean, had you asked me that last week, I would have said, oh, it tells me more about it tells me more that South Florida is real than Florida is not real. And then we had the Florida LSU game where DJ Lagway threw 5 interceptions, and then you have this one where South Florida goes and loses 49-12 to Miami, and I'm like, all right, well, maybe that flips the other way. Like,
exactly.
It tells me Florida's not good, and that Billy Napier and them are in some severe trouble, and then it also tells me that South Florida's probably not as real as we were expecting. You know, I mean, looking at the rest of South Florida's schedule, I mean, they have like SC State, Charlotte, North Texas, FAU, Memphis, UTSA, Navy, UAB, Rice. Like, they could very well end with only 1 loss and be the playoff team.
They could win the American, yeah. They're a very real contender.
And be the playoff team from that, which would not be a bad season at all. Like, it's just, I don't think they're to the level of competing with the big dogs that we maybe thought. And I wasn't high on Miami coming into the year. I was not a Carson Beck guy. He's looked a lot more. He's looked very improved, I should say.
2023 Carson Beck.
Yeah, from his time there. I mean, I know he dealt with a lot of drops at Georgia last year from his receivers, but I just think he looks more confident too. Like I think he has his swagger back. So I'll eat some crow on that one. I was very anti Carson Beck. I'm going to buy in a little bit. I'm not going to go full in yet, but I'm going to say like he's probably better than I was giving him credit for.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's an entirely new receiver room out there in Miami too, isn't it? I believe it. They lost their top 5 or 6 guys.
I believe so. I know they lost Restrepo, and that I know that what's his name? He came from LSU. CJ Daniels.
CJ, yeah.
He transferred in. But I think it's pretty much all new.
Yeah, so that's even more impressive that you're getting that entirely new receiving core. You got the new quarterback.
And they lost their tight end. Arroyo went to the NFL too, so.
And that guy that played for 12 years.
Yeah, he didn't go to the NFL, but
no, but he lost his 13th year of eligibility. So
Cam McCormick, I think.
Yeah, that's a big loss.
Yeah,
but that's the impressive part, I think, with Miami is that they've been able to do offense. Defense has been their issue. I feel like the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah. But to replace an entire receiver room, another transfer quarterback, and then still be firing on all cylinders like this. Like you said, South Florida is not a bad team.
Right.
I don't think they're top level Power 4 level team yet. Right. But I think if you put them in that mid-20s, rank them in the mid-20s, they can play with the Indianas, the other lower-ish Power 4 teams. I think this does show that Miami's a solid top 5 team. However, I'm still not going to buy in until they beat someone.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, let's look at the rest of their schedule. So they play Florida this week in Miami. Again, it's not even in Gainesville. It's in Miami. Then they go to at Florida State. They go to Tallahassee.
Yeah, they do the whole Florida gauntlet.
The whole Florida gauntlet. Then the rest of their schedule is Louisville, Stanford, SMU, Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, Pitt. So is there anyone on that schedule that you're like, you need to beat this team for me to be confident?
Florida State. And I'm still not sold on them.
Exactly. So I'm not sure. And the thing is like, there's going to be one of those games in there where, as an Oregon fan, I can tell you there's going to be a Mario Cristobal masterclass of like, we should beat this team. And somehow it's like 6-3, that game we were just talking about.
I'll tell you where it is.
Which one?
Syracuse.
Think so? Can see it. I was thinking maybe Louisville.
I think Louisville's sneaky good, though.
Yeah, but I think it doesn't have to be like sneaky good or not good. Like, it's going to be, you expect Miami to beat this team, and it's going to be a letdown. And that's coming off of the Florida State game. Like, you go to that. Yeah. So that's why I feel like it could very well be there.
Miami should be the ACC representative for the playoff.
Yeah, probably. They do play Florida this week, so that's something we'll continue this conversation on next week with this whole thing again. But let's go ahead and move on now. Let's talk about like some of the G5, who could be the playoff team there or whatever, and we kind of highlighted the MAC right now. Because Ohio, they are 1-2, but they had a 3-point loss to Rutgers. They beat West Virginia. They got beat down by Ohio State, but you expect that.
Did you see, though? They were only down 1 score midway through the third quarter.
They were.
I know that Ohio State, I know they had some turnover. There were some weird things that were going on there. But
sure. At the end of the day, they when it got to the point of when they needed to, they did what they needed to do, right?
Yep.
I don't know. It's going to be tough. I like Bowling Green too. I think they've really impressed me this year. So looking at that, I don't know. I don't know who's going to be that team.
I don't know if Ohio will be the playoff team, so to speak, out of the G5 there. What they have that's different than other teams, in my opinion, is that playmaker at quarterback, the wild card that is above all else. Not saying he's the best player on the field, but he's dynamic enough to shift big games against teams that you may not expect them to compete with.
Sure.
That's not to say West Virginia is a good team that they beat them, or Rutgers is good either necessarily. If they're a playoff team, they probably should have beat Rutgers, I would say. but I was impressed with them hanging around with Ohio State for as long as they did.
Sure. This sounds like a lot of Drew Pine disrespect from Bowling Green there, talking about that. But I agree. I mean, they've had games where like they probably should beat Rutgers, but again, it's a close game with a Power 4 school. You're there. You did beat West Virginia in the Power 4 school. It was in Ohio, but still you beat them. You kept it close with Ohio State for 2.5 quarters. Like, okay, you've shown us some stuff, but again, you still got to go through the season and figure it out there. Like we see highlights, but again, we need to see the sustained success. The non-Power 4 playoff team automatic bid is going to be the hardest bid to get.
Yeah.
And like if we're talking about like South Florida, we were just talking about them. If South Florida wins the rest of the season, they're automatically getting that bid.
Yeah, easy. They're going to be a top 15 team.
Yeah. So it's hard to say where exactly it's going to be, but I was impressed with Ohio. But at the same time, it's like at the end of the day, those teams did what they needed. Like Ohio State did what they needed to do in the end. So how much credit do you give for keeping it close for 2.5 quarters?
Sure.
Even if it is a gap, how much credit do you give that? Because the final score is still the final score.
Yep.
So speaking of a team that has kept it close so far this year, but is 0-2 at this moment. And if you have noticed that there is a certain co-host missing from this show who happens to be a fan of that team, you'll probably know why. But Notre Dame, they are 0-2, 2 very, very close losses. 1 to Miami and Hard Rock Stadium, and then 1 to Texas A&M in Notre Dame on what a busted – I know the coach tried to say, hey, this is exactly what we try to do is go to our 4th string blocking tight end on 4th down at the goal line. I'm sorry.
It was a breakdown.
Mike Elko, you did not target that guy there. It was a play breakdown. You threw it up. The guy caught it. It's an insane game. But is it time to panic about Notre Dame? Now, we're looking ahead at their schedule. Gets pretty easy. They got Purdue, Arkansas, Boise State, NC State. Then we have the USC game. We aren't sure what USC is. We'll talk about them here in a little bit, but there's the potential that game could be back to what we expected Notre Dame and USC to be like 10 years ago. Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford. So they're not going to face the top-level competition outside of USC. So I'll give you kind of 2 questions here. Is it time to panic, first off? And second off, do you see a way that Notre Dame still makes the playoff?
One, answer the first question with, is it time to panic? If you're a Notre Dame fan, no, you've seen this before.
Fair.
You're going to see it again.
Freshman quarterback.
As a college football fan, necessarily, we've all seen this also, but your playoff hopes are dashed. You're not going to the playoff.
Even if those are 2 top 15 teams that you lost to?
Yeah, that I don't see it continuing through there. Your best bet past that is what USC that they have to beat. I think there's going to be too many teams in that top 12 that's going to have a better resume with one of those being a win. Let's say other teams have 2 top 15 losses, but one of them is going to be a win. And who knows where A&M ends up.
Right.
I think Miami stays up there. Does A&M stay in the top 15? I don't know.
Yeah.
They could be in a 4-loss team.
They could. I was just – the hypothetical is where I was throwing it out right now.
And I don't think I guess it depends on your thoughts of panicking as a Notre Dame fan. Are you expecting a national championship? I think you should after last year. So yes, panic for no national title, but
sure. But I also think it was the real possibility that you had to know that you were starting a freshman. You had the possibility of starting a freshman quarterback, and you did lose some pieces as well. Like, I mean, Riley Leonard was a big piece to that team. Huge. I mean, obviously you have Jeremiah Love still, but it's very hard to recover from the most important player that has been with your team,
Yeah.
So expecting a national championship might have been a little bit of a reach with how good some teams are in returning players, but I think definitely expecting a playoff run was very real, and that very well could have been dashed after that.
Yeah, I think they're out of the playoffs, and they don't have the conference title game to play. Do they play they don't play in the ACC title game, right? They just have that 5-game agreement.
Yeah, no, they don't play in it.
Right. Okay. There was just that COVID year that they had to play the.
Yeah.
Okay.
It will be interesting. I mean, we've heard some rumblings that with an potential expanded playoff, Notre Dame could very well join one of the 2 big conferences. I would expect that to be the Big Ten, but just because it's more localized to guys they play, and they would get some of their old rivalries back anyways. So we'll see if that ends up happening in the long run. It's still probably a year, 2 years away from us even figuring out what's really going to happen. But let's jump over to talking about Vanderbilt now.
I thought you were going to Clemson.
No, that's next. Clemson's next. Okay. Let's go to Vandy first. Well, let's talk about Theo Vaughn and Diego Pavia, because that is the biggest story.
What's the latest on that?
I still think the latest is the Theo Vaughn's DM to Tate McRae.
We're still waiting.
I think we're still waiting on that.
Shout out to him for really sliding that one in there for himself.
Yeah, yeah. If it doesn't work out for that, then I'll do that. How do you think Diego Pavia's mom took that
one? If she's anything like Diego Pavia, then very well.
Pretty well,
I would say. Yeah.
All right.
She seems like a girl that would be nice.
If you don't know that, just go Twitter search it. Go to Theo Vaughn's page. It is the funniest interaction of the week. It is why I love college football so much, because you get moments like that in there. But let's not let that take away from the game itself. And that was Vanderbilt absolutely just dominating South Carolina at South Carolina, 31-7. So, how do I say? Is Vanderbilt a real contender this year? We've seen them do this before with beating Alabama, doing that, but I mean, their schedule. They get Georgia State, Utah State, but then they face Alabama, LSU, Missouri, Texas, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee.
SEC's a gauntlet.
Gauntlet, dude. I love Clark Lea. I love everything they did in the hard hat zone, but I have a hard time buying that they're an actual contender this year, but they're going to have another upset win this year. 1,000%, I believe.
For sure. I don't think they're a contender for – I think they're fringe playoff. I think a 9-3 Vanderbilt team, depending who they beat.
Well, I mean – okay, so we're saying they have 3 losses, but who do they beat out of Alabama, LSU, Missouri, Texas, Auburn, Tennessee?
I think Alabama – I'm going out on a limb here. I think Alabama boat races them after last year. Okay. I said last week I don't think Bama's bad.
Well, we'll talk about Bama in a minute too.
So I think they get Auburn, and I would say that they get Missouri.
So then they lose LSU, Texas, Tennessee?
That's what I would – well, Alabama, LSU, and Texas, and then that Vanderbilt-Tennessee game might be for the playoff.
Which is last week of the season.
Right.
Okay.
I can see a world where that happens.
I think they end up 5 losses.
Very well could. But I want to buy into them.
That's fine. It's very fun. They're a fun team to watch. I'm not going to discount them there. Like, they are very fun, and they have these games where they step up. But it's very hard to do it in the SEC. And I'm very much in the SEC. You have to prove to me that you can do it before I'm willing to buy in fully that you can do it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I think that also says South Carolina may have been a little bit overrated. I think both these teams are mid-20s.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also worth noting that it was, I think, a 1 or 2 score game when Lenora Sellers went out with his concussion.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely could have been a difference there.
Fully agree.
But again, how we were just saying, you play the game you play, and you win the game you win. It ended up being I think it was 21-7. They won 31-7. So They were obviously still up 2 scores. I think it was 1-2 scores, but it could have been 1.
It was 14-7, I believe. He got knocked out, and I think Vandy scored on the next possession. So it could have been a tie game if he stays in. Who knows?
Yeah. So let's move to talking about Clemson now, because I think this is the one where we talked a little bit this weekend about it later on, or I think we have a little bit
podcast.
Yeah. If that happened to David, if you're listening to this, you can chime in later.
Turn it off, actually.
Yeah, probably. You'll probably turn it off anyways. But is Clemson dead? Is it time to move on from Dabo? I think that's where I want to go, because I think Cade has made a big regression this year. I don't think the offense is very good. The defense has, I think they've been okay with Tom Allen, but again, like you can only do what you can do, right? Like, I just think at this time, I think it's best for a fresh start from both sides. I'm not saying Dabo's a bad coach, and I'm not saying Clemson is. I think Clemson's a good program. I think that if you get people in there who are not afraid to use NIL the right way, I feel like if you get someone in there who's willing or able to use the portal the right way, where Dabo has for a long time refused to use that. He's kind of opened up recently, but I feel like it's time for a split. Like, they're 1-2 here. They probably have another loss somewhere on the schedule. Depends on where you think it is, if it's Florida State or if it's South Carolina, or if they have one of the letdown games against Duke or something. Like, it's like if you go 9-3 again, like, is it time to really? I think it's time to make a thought process about that.
You're on the side of time to split from Dabo.
Yeah.
I'm not fully off of that side. I'm not saying that side's wrong. I'm as I guess, devil's advocate in a way, but I also, from my own personal experience with West Virginia, I think you should cherish what you do have. And what you do have right now is 9-3, 10-2, year in, year out. You have to be very careful what that coach is that you hire, that you go get.
Sure. I think, to my point, is that if you're going out there, I think Clemson is a big enough job where you almost have a pick of the litter. Like, if Clemson were to open up this year, let's look. I mean, we already have 2 coaches fired right now. Virginia Tech, UCLA. Any coach is going to pick Clemson over those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's realistically look at any of the other coaches, like big market teams there. What coaches do you realistically see getting fired from any big program this year?
Does Sharon Moore stay at Michigan if they have a down year?
Maybe.
Do we keep? I mean, I
think they maybe give him one more year.
It's not that he's done anything wrong, but that felt like we just needed someone to stay around the program while we went through the turmoil higher.
My only worry with that is that it might do them more harm than good with having like Bryce Underwood and stuff, because he very well could enter the portal. Yep. So they might give Sharon Moore a little bit more run there just because they're afraid of losing a guy like Bryce Underwood potentially.
Mm-hmm.
And like, just playing the card of that trail, LSU, where Bryce Underwood was committed for so long, happens to be losing their starting quarterback after this year. And it's like, you very well could get into a thing where like, hey, we fire Sharon Moore, Bryce Underwood goes, and it's like, well, I was committed to LSU for almost a year basically. Right. And then 4 days before National Signing Day, you threw me a huge offer to make me flip and sign here. Like, I'll just go to the place where I wanted to play basically all along.
And you got a year under your belt to play.
Exactly. And you have a year under your belt to play, and you're going with a good offensive coach in Brian Kelly, who, like, for all his faults there, he has quarterback development, a decent job, especially LSU. You saw it with Jaden Daniels. You've seen it with Garrett Nussmeier. There's the potential for that. I'm not saying it will happen. There's potential.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Clemson would be – I don't think Michigan does it.
If you're looking at big teams, though, that'd be the only other equal-ish job.
So I think you're going to have the pick of your litter there at Clemson if someone really wants it.
Mm-hmm. You will, but who's available then? You're looking at Jimbo's available. I don't think you're not going to hire Pryor.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be like – it could very well be one of the young up-and-comers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could go get – you can go get a Will Stein from Oregon. We've saw this thing where like a guy like Dan Lanning, he was a DC for Georgia. Oregon hires him, but he looks great, right? You're going to have those moments too. So I don't even think it has to be a well-established coach. I just think if you're wanting to get a high-level, prolific, maybe offensive guy back into that program, you can go and get basically the pick of any offensive coordinator in the league you want.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so
here's a question: does Clemson have? I know most teams have gone to this model. Does Clemson have a general manager?
I am not sure. That would be a question for David.
if they don't, which it seems, I mean, seemingly they don't because they're not using a lot of NIL, they're not using transfers or the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Does putting a GM there and taking the decision off of Dabo's plate, does that change?
Maybe. I mean, if they're willing to do it, but again, Dabo is the head coach. He has to be willing to. He has to be willing to accept that. He has to be willing to do that. And it's not his philosophy has been not willing to do that. I'm not sure that just hiring a general manager who's like, "Hey, you need to do this," and then him being like, "Oh, why didn't I think of that?" And it's like,
they put the players on your team though.
Yeah,
I mean, that's going more towards that NFL model where coaches aren't necessarily making all the decisions of who's there. But
most of the time, though, when you do that with the GM, it's about how you allocate resources, and it's not about. I mean, at the end of the day, the coach is usually the one
getting the talent
and using those resources.
Fair.
That's kind of been. I'm not sure that he's had the lack of resources. That's a question that is to be determined still.
That's fair, so. And I see both sides of it too. So I don't want, as a Clemson fan, I wouldn't want to look back on this in 3 years when you're, say, 5-7 and go, man, I wish we could just get back to 9-3 every single year.
That's fair. I mean, there is an unknown there, but at the same time, if you're Clemson, are you willing to settle for 9-3, or would you rather have the ability to potentially chase more national championships? When it seems like the way it's heading, it's probably not that way with Dabo. And if he keeps up the same level of trajectory, how soon is it until you're almost in that range as well? If the continued not using NIL and not using transfer portal continues the level it has, you're only going to fall farther and farther behind in the game. You have to adapt. I mean, we saw it with Oklahoma State, right? Mike Gundy was a very good coach for a long time, and they've fallen far, far behind.
Yeah.
They look terrible.
Keep in mind, this is coming from a West Virginia fan who's never won a national title. The closest we've sniffed it was when Pitt beat us and my coach abandoned us for 17 years. And now that he's back, I want to hold him dearly and never let go. And I don't care if we go 1-11 for the next 10 years.
Does I know technically I have two teams, but does that count for the Oregon side too? Because I have no national titles. But they've been a team that have consistently moved coaches as well.
Yeah.
We're like LSU, obviously everyone there is basically one, so we'll see.
The impressive part with Oregon is they've just continued to win no matter what, though.
Yeah. Kind of. So let's talk about the Big 12 real quick. We'll jump around again some more, but is anyone good from the Big 12? I mean, we have Iowa State. We have Iowa State, who they're 12th ranked in the country. They are 4-0. You have Houston's 3-0. You have Texas Tech and Utah both 3-0. There's a big game this week against those two, which we'll talk about. But even Iowa State,
they haven't looked good.
They haven't looked good. They had the big game in Kansas. They looked decent there against Kansas in Ireland, I should say. Beat South Dakota. It's then there was the typical Iowa game versus Iowa State, right? That game was always going to be close. It was always going to be on a late field goal. Then they only beat Arkansas State by 24-16. Their schedule doesn't look like a gauntlet, but again, it's they're in Big 12 play now, and it's is anyone really good there? There's definitely a world where Iowa State goes undefeated, but then there's also a world where this entire conference ends up with 3 losses.
This feels like it's happened every year for the last 3 or 4 years, and not only in football but in basketball. It just cannibalizes itself, and it's not necessarily saying
everyone's
one team's bad. Mid. Yeah, one of them could be a decent playoff team, but we don't know realistically. Arizona State was represented last year for the playoffs, right? Out of Big 12.
Yes.
They did not beat Texas.
No.
Okay. I was replaying that game in my head. I was they were very close, if I remember correctly.
I'll look it up. I don't think they did, but
no, because Texas beat Clemson. This is really bad.
Yeah, we are. No,
this is
Texas 39-31.
39-31. Okay. All right.
It was close.
Okay. So, point being, your best team in the Big 12 is still a top 10 team. It's just which team is that? And you're right. All the top 3 or 4 teams there could have 2 or 3 conference losses. And is that Texas Tech? Is it Baylor's not bad? Is it?
I mean, they're 2-1, but
their losses to Auburn. How good's I don't know, but Baylor's got a quarterback that's been there forever. He slings the ball everywhere.
Yeah.
Utah, they didn't look great at Wyoming early last week.
I mean, we'll see this week. That's where that big game this week against Texas Tech at home.
Texas Tech has looked like the best team thus far.
Yep, it's a big statement.
Squad's kind of taken their step back that we probably expected, I would say.
Yeah, but
BYU's still out there too. What's BYU have?
It's going to be interesting to see it's going to be interesting to see how they do with the new quarterback getting into Big 12 play. Now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big deal. So, I mean, at this point, you lean Iowa State because they have probably the 2 best wins at the moment.
For sure.
Again, it's like where Matt Campbell's also consistently had letdown games as well. So where is that going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or is this going to be the year that finally doesn't happen?
It's possible. They just need a down year from the conference.
Yeah. And we'll talk more about the Texas Tech-Utah game at the end when we're previewing full Week 4 stuff. So let's talk about Virginia Tech and UCLA because they both fired their head coaches this week. Brent Pry had been there for, 4 years?
I think he was on his 4th, yeah.
Yeah, he was on his 4th year. He was 16-24 in his time there.
Not acceptable in Blacksburg.
Not acceptable there. And then Sean Foster got a real bad hand dealt to him. He was on the Chip Kelly staff when Chip Kelly left to go be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. He was a former Bruin player. They were kind of in shambles because it happened very late, kind of. And he kind of took it over, but that talent just gorged itself. It was everyone that was talented left, basically. And he went 5-10 as his time as coach there.
I'm shocked he got 5.
Yeah, it was not good. That whole environment really has been very, very lackluster for the last 2 years. I went last year for Oregon versus UCLA at the Rose Bowl. And
how many people were there?
There was a lot of people, but it was primarily Oregon. I would have been surprised where looking at their game this last weekend if they had – I don't know the exact numbers, so don't hold me to this, but just looking at the stadium and seeing the people, I would have been surprised if they had 10,000.
I've seen games. Yeah, it doesn't look like anyone's going to them unless it's like your USC or Oregon, whatever else they are.
Another fan base that is either close or travels very well.
Right.
That's it.
Or just wants to go to California for the weekend.
Right. It's not a bad place to watch a game. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful stadium. Like, it's the Rose Bowl. It has a ton of history, right? But yeah, it was not a good thing. You've already seen the big names get thrown around for who's going to go there and this and that. But let's not speculate on coaches because we're still way Week 4 about stuff. You don't know how things are going to happen, except that we can almost guarantee lock that Shane Beamer is going to go to Virginia Tech, just because that seems like it's going to happen.
Is that a step down though?
Maybe, but it's legacy, right? Like you go to Virginia Tech, you're probably never getting fired. Like your legacy there,
unless you're Brent Pry.
Well, I said legacy
as Shane Beamer,
as Shane Beamer because you're going there. But let's instead of talking about exact coaches, let's talk about status of program and what they need to do moving forward. Obviously, right? UCLA needs to invest more into their team. They need to get a coach who is can lock down recruiting in Southern California, because right now you're getting hosed by USC and Oregon. They dominate Southern California recruiting. You need to find a way to get that back. That also starts with NIL. They have been one of the severe lackluster teams in having funding from NIL and doing that. So you need a coach that knows how to build a program. You need a program builder. You don't need like an offensive or defensive coach. Virginia Tech, I don't know what you need.
Virginia Tech, you just need conference realignment to get back to regional. Yeah. That's what you need at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech needs a hard edge to them, as Rich Rodriguez would say. But at the same time, I think these mid-Atlantic Northeast teams need to get back to playing in their region, it makes them look a little bit better. This isn't 2005 anymore. You don't have Michael Vick. You don't have Marcus Vick. Virginia Tech is not as pretty as it once was, even though it's still the same Virginia Tech. They still have the best entrance in college football. They still have some of the best uniforms in college football, especially going back to the old ones.
Yeah.
But I don't know that Virginia Tech, outside of having a top 5 college football player of all time, was necessarily a national title contender year in, year out. And that kind of ties back to the Dabo thing also with Frank Beamer. He was a 9-3, 10-2 coach. You don't fire him.
Yeah. But times have changed. Times are different.
And everyone's going for a national title, right or wrong.
Right. You have to. You're either trying for a national championship or you're not trying. That the days of being a 9-3 team and getting to a specific bowl game, those aren't looked at the same anymore. Now, real quick, just because we did say we were talking about with Beamer and is it a step down, would you be at South Carolina and be primarily the team where you are in the middle, or would you rather go to Virginia Tech in the ACC where you have a chance to build a winner and win consistently there?
This is the good portion. That's a great question. Beamer is building South Carolina. He's going, when he does leave, I suspect he will leave it in a better spot than when he got it.
Yeah.
But I also think as a big time coach, and Dabo's taken advantage of this for a decade now.
Yep.
Being the best team in a small conference is probably better than being a really good team in the SEC or Big Ten.
Yeah.
You see it with James Franklin.
Yep.
And you see James Franklin and Dabo.
Yeah.
The two differences there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Penn State and Clemson, for the last decade, if you play them head to head, they're coming out 500 against each other.
Probably.
Dabo had now the 12-team playoff definitely changes this a little bit. Clemson's got to go win. Teams like Clemson have to go win 4 games.
Yeah.
3 games minimum to go get a national title now. It's not just win 1 or win 2.
Right.
But yes, I do agree with you. Taking that, while it may be considered a step down, I think it extends your career and extends your lifeline, so to speak, at a school.
Especially if it was Beamer to Virginia Tech, I feel like that's a different story as well. But we'll move on past that. We'll get to the coaching stuff when it happens later. But we were just talking about UCLA. Let's talk about the Big Ten in general, and let's talk about USC.
I had one more question on UCLA for you being local.
Go ahead, because it kind of ties all in.
What did they lose that like UCLA was a brand? When did they lose their brand? It was prior to Chip Kelly. But like, what's happened? Have they?
I honestly think it was like the start of NIL.
But that was before then too. Like they kind of.
I mean, it was before then.
It's a good point.
Like it was before then, but it really wasn't before then.
Yeah.
I mean, they really haven't had the status since the last time they were even looked at really kind of respectable is like when you had Josh Rosen and that level of there. But I mean, that's kind of, I feel like when NIL, because it's been around for a lot longer than people think it has been, right?
Yeah.
Not even just the like under the table back to like Reggie Bush days where we all knew it was happening, but it's not like
he didn't take any money.
Right. It's been around a lot longer, more above board than people, and we really kind of give it credit for. I think that's honestly when it started, because I mean, what Rosen's class was
2017 or 18.
2017, 18. So I mean, you're not talking that long ago, really, in the grand scheme of it. That's when I honestly feel like they started falling off. They hired Chip Kelly as like trying to regain the brand, and it was like, well, you started falling off of NIL. Chip Kelly had his failed NFL tenure already, and had tried to come back to college game. But I think Chip Kelly's a good coach.
Yep.
He is someone who obviously built Oregon to where it was. But I think it's very telling when that guy who had been an NFL coach, had successful college football programs, leaves your school to go become the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. I think that read everything you needed to say about the status of that program and where it was at. And it wasn't even like, most people wasn't like, oh, I don't understand why Chip Kelly is doing this. Most of the stuff you read is like, this is Chip Kelly Like, this is Chip Kelly saying, this is a sinking ship and I'm going to be fired in a year or two because I see what's happening, and taking the out now, which then led him to getting the offensive coordinator job in Vegas right now.
Right.
So this level of program needs to get back to, they need to find a way to build the program back up from the ground, and you need to find some way to get more NIL boosters in that thing, because it's very hard to compete with USC and Oregon, because those two have the brand, those two have the money behind them because they have big time boosters, where like you feel like UCLA would, but it hasn't shown up since this has become a primary part of recruiting.
Correct.
Right. So I feel like that's really when it started and what needs to change for UCLA.
I'm just curious, because that would be one of the teams, if you told me blue bloods of college football, at one point they were a blue blood of college football.
Very much so. Just the fact that their program is in such a dire spot right now, you need whatever coach you hire, first off, it needs to be someone who has a very strong will, but they have to be a CEO and a program builder. You can't expect to hire a good offensive coach and give them 3 years and expect them to be very good.
Dabo.
Like, maybe, but again, like all the problems that UCLA has is all the problems that, or what they need is not what Dabo has right now, right?
Well, they got to win games first. That's at least a start.
You have to win games, but at the same time, you're in the level of players take the most money.
True.
They do. Like, if Bryce Hunter was looking at winning, he wasn't going to Michigan right now, with knowing everything they had lost and with having Sherrone Moore. He probably would have went to LSU.
For every one person that sticks around for loyalty, you got 20 that went for money.
Exactly. Right. So you have to. It's going to come down to NIL, and I keep repeating that, but that's a big problem in UCLA right now. You have to get NIL back to the level where it's at, because once you start getting some good players, other players see that, and they see they're willing to come there. So it used to be, hey, winning gets you good players. Now it's like you need to pay good players to come to your team, and then once you win, other players will be willing to come
for less.
But you have to do something in the meantime to start that train going in the right direction.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was facilities related or different things like that, because that's one where like the school, or the stadium's not on campus there, right? They got it's down there. Like, it's a hassle to do some things, and I know that some people.
It's on a golf course.
Is it?
Yeah, you park on a golf course.
That's crazy.
You've never been there. Yeah, you park on all your tailgating and stuff is on like a golf course, and you like just walk over to the stadium there.
That's crazy. But with those, I feel like players nowadays too are not going as much for tradition or
very much so. Absolutely. But let's stick in the Big Ten and let's talk about what this looks like right now, because I think coming into the year, everyone said, well, there's a big three, right? The big three is Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon. I don't think any of those teams have really done anything to kind of dispel that at the moment. And I don't think anyone else has really done anything to put themselves in the situation. Indiana and Illinois, I mean, they have a big game this week playing against each other, but I don't know if you're expecting either of those teams to kind of step up to the big name teams, right? We're going to get a big, big idea about what either of those teams are in 2 weeks, 9 days. That's Penn State's things put in it when you have Oregon travel to Penn State for the whiteout. But this is also tying into USC because they are 3-0 right now. But their 3 wins are Missouri State, Georgia Southern, Purdue. They start Michigan State, Illinois, Michigan, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, then at Oregon, UCLA to wrap up the year. So they are starting their really tough part of their schedule. They have looked pretty decent so far, but again, they've really not played much. Right?
No.
Their best one's been Purdue. So do we think that UCLA has a chance? And is the Big Ten what we basically expected it coming into the year?
USC. UCLA doesn't have a chance.
USC. That's what I meant. We were just talking about UCLA so much. So.
I don't think USC is there yet. Okay. Not in the Big Ten. Somehow Ohio State has done it again. And it's defense this year. Okay. I think the Big Ten at the top of it still will be the same 3 teams for the foreseeable future, honestly. I think this is an Ohio State and Oregon race again. And USC is still that 4th team sitting back.
I would think I would maybe even put Indiana over USC.
Really?
Maybe even Illinois. I like what Coach Sig has done at Indiana. Mm-hmm. Fernando Mendoza has done a good job there too. And I really like Luke Altmaier at Illinois, man. They are building something there.
Always good.
Bielema was always good. I worry about the USC's defense. I think they haven't played much yet. So I'm interested to see that. But also, it's a first-time starting quarterback, Jordan Mayava. I need to see what he has long-term. I need to see him go through a season and play some tougher defenses before I'm like really willing to dive in on them being the team. And how hard is it to trust Lincoln Riley? Like it's very hard to trust him.
I trust him with the offense. See what he did with Caleb Williams at Oklahoma. The defense, it doesn't matter. You could have Kirby Smart as your defensive coordinator for Lincoln Riley, and somehow they're still going to figure out how to give up 600 yards.
And that's why I think I put Illinois and Indiana. They're in the same tier. I probably give them a slight edge to USC right now because I need to see USC play someone before that. Like Indiana and Illinois, they've had good years the past few years. Just looks like they've built on that, right? Mm-hmm. I need to see USC. They've had a lot of turnover. I need to see that. I need to see that happen.
That's fair.
So, we'll go real quick. We kind of hit on it earlier because you were talking about Bama boat racing. Who are we talking about there? Vanderbilt. Have they figured something out? I mean, they lost to Florida State week 1. They had a big win this last week against Wisconsin. If you want to say which Wisconsin is this year, or this time, if they're still good or not. They get a big, they're on a bye week this week, but then they have a big game against Georgia. Then they play Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois, and Auburn. They have a gauntlet. Dude, we were talking about the SEC. It's a gauntlet.
I said it last week. They're still a 9-3 team.
So they only lose 2 more between Georgia, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, LSU, Auburn, Oklahoma.
Yeah. I think they lose Georgia and Tennessee. I think that's it. I think they might even still squeak. Oh, Georgia LSU. That's why that was wrong one. Okay. They're going to win the rivalry games that they normally win. But I think Georgia still has the edge, and LSU, those 2 teams.
Okay.
But those are the only 2 teams that they've really competed with back and forth. Like Tennessee beat them once in the last decade.
It's different era now.
Iron Bowl, yes, going back and forth here and there, but it's usually when Bama's got some of these highly heavy teams.
It's a different era. First off, like we have to continue saying that. But second off, I think it's gonna be really interesting because you have a freshman quarterback, and now you're getting into SEC defenses, which we were just talking about. I know we talked earlier that SEC defenses aren't as good as they were, but like when you're facing a freshman quarterback for the first time in the SEC, and you go against Kirby Smart, you're going to go against Blake Baker, who's done a good job. You're going to go against Clark Leah. Like, those are still really tough games to go into. So
Alabama's still an SEC defense, though.
I mean, sure, but they're not. Who are they facing on the other side? Like, you're facing 7-year starter Diego Pavia. I mean, it seems like this point. Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, he's going to be a Heisman contender. Probably John Materi, a Heisman contender, probably. Like
Simpson is a junior, but he hasn't played.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm saying he's a freshman, basically, because he's a first-time starter. But
yeah,
I get what you're saying. It's first time playing these defenses, and a guy like Kirby Smart will eat up a first-time starter there. I'm not saying he doesn't have talent. He has amazing talent, but he's obviously at Alabama. But it's your first time getting in these games. Reps matter.
My main concern with them is, can they run the ball?
That's very real too. Very real.
That's my one. If they can figure out a run game,
yeah,
they might not lose to Georgia.
But
I don't think they're going to figure that out in the off week.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the transfer portal change real quick, so we can move on to the week 4
Interested
preview.
in your thoughts on this.
I don't mind it. I like them going to a one-time portal, right? I think it very much fits what the game needs right now. But I do have a problem of when they decided to put this, because the whole part of making it like, nobody cared about the spring transfer portal window. Like it happened. Like, okay, you went to a place or you're at a place, you figured out through spring practices in the spring game that you're not the starter. I want to leave. Okay, fine, perfect, whatever. Everyone had a problem with, hey, the transfer portal opens right when playoff teams are in the middle of playoffs and right when teams are getting ready for New Year's bowl games. We need to find a way to stop that. And the college or NCAA was like, you know the way we do that? We put the transfer portal window January 2nd to January 11th right in the middle of when the semifinals should be going on, right? If we're basing it off of last year, the quarterfinals were December 31st and January 1st. The semifinals were January 8th and January 19th, and the national championship was January 19th.
Did you see the caveat with that, though?
That it's only a one-time transfer, or what?
No, the teams playing in the postseason like that, the window is supposed to be extended 5 days past the last game for those players. That's not to say those players won't enter the portal before. Still.
Yeah.
To take all of that bias out of it, you are correct. That needs to be after the national championship game.
My problem with it, and why, even if the caveat for those teams, it being extended for those teams my caveat is the other teams are still filling the open spots while that time is happening. Like a guy at, let's say it's Ohio State, right? He wants to leave, but he can't. He's not going to enter the portal until their season's over. But let's say they make the national championship. Okay, well, that's the 11th. You're talking about a week later, after the last day to enter the portal. Let's say you were looking to transfer to a lower Power 4 school. Odds are the lower Power 4 school has already filled their need with someone who was in the portal to begin with.
Yep.
Like, obviously, there's conversations going on way ahead of time. There's money already getting thrown around when you're not in the portal. But if a team has an opportunity to sign, let's just say a backup quarterback from Ohio State who wants to transfer to, let's use UCLA, for instance, or if it's a quarterback from Fresno State, let's just, for instance,
EJ Warner.
Yeah, let's say, right? Not that that's exactly going to happen, but the odds are UCLA is probably going to sign the guy who they can get right away. Then
correct.
Worry about potentially losing that guy later and all the other options being dried up. It would just be so easy to say, hey, the transfer portal opens
January 20th.
The day after the national championship or 2 days after the national championship, and it's open for, however long, the 9 or 10 days you want it to be. Now, the only problem I see is why people are saying that is because some schools are quarterly based, so you're dealing with, or semester based, whichever one. Enrolls have to be done in January for some schools. For most schools. Again, I feel like you could just figure something out there, right? Other sports have transfer portal windows at all different times of the year too.
Yep.
Like, you can't tell me your biggest sport, you can't figure out how to have enrollment for, what's it going to be? A handful of players coming into your school? Odds are you're not taking 20 transfers every year. But even then, it's 20 people out of how many? You just figure it out.
The other part of it, I agree with that. I can see, yes, it's still school. They still need to be enrolled, blah, blah, blah. January 2nd to 11th. The next semester's, I think it should start before then. That's just the portal window opening. That doesn't mean they've signed it.
Yeah, that's the portal window. That's when the window's opened.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter. They're going to the new school middle of the semester anyway. Doesn't matter. Put that portal window after the national championship. Make it even across the board for every team, or for every player, really. And
yeah,
you're right on that. Like,
or here's the thing: just make it. You could have just made it the spring transfer portal window. No one would have cared. But then at the same point, I get you want spring practice, and
coaches voted unanimously against that one.
Yeah,
they wanted it before the spring practice, which I get.
The
whole thing with the transfer portal to begin with is essentially to spite coaches, because the argument is coaches can leave whenever they want. Why can't players? So,
yeah, I understand it because players and students are enrolled in classes, so it's kind of hard. But I get that point. That point's a very, very valid point. That coaches they're not tied anywhere, while players are. That's why they did the whole, like, after your coach leaves, you can do it, which is very interesting too, because Virginia Tech, UCLA, they did it in the middle of the season. So that 30-day window opened in the middle of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But those players could transfer out. They can't enroll, but they could take their redshirt year.
Yep.
And then do that. Interesting. I'm not. They need to find some way to make it after every game is done with, but yet before spring. There should easily be a way.
Do you think with the single transfer portal should die down the transfers, though? You would think.
No.
You wouldn't have as many.
No.
Or you think you'll have more?
Yeah. Because I think that players would either stay at a specific place thinking, hey, I'm going to compete here and I'm going to try and win this job. And if I don't win this job, I'll leave. Where now I think they'll just say, I'm going to try and find somewhere that's just going to let me start. I'm not going to try and go somewhere where I'm going to try and compete. I think you're going to see more happen in that. I feel like it's going to be the same. I just feel like because it's condensed down, you're going to have more players trying to not compete for jobs and more players looking for the guaranteed job.
Okay.
That's what I feel like.
Okay.
So real quick, let's get through these because we're already over an hour here. Let's look at the week 4 preview. So we have Texas Tech at Utah. It is the big noon game. 12 Eastern time on Fox. Over-unders 56.5. 4.5 favored towards Utah at the moment. So what are you taking here?
I got the under on 56.5, but I got Texas Tech on the money line.
Interesting. I would take the under as well, but I think I'm going Utah.
Okay.
I'll take the points with Utah.
It's tough for me to bet against Whittingham, but
yeah, I've been very intrigued with Devin Dampier this year. I will say that. So I'll take the points. I think it's going to be an under game. I think it's going to be really close, but Utah scores a touchdown late to take the lead or something.
Yep.
Auburn at Oklahoma, 3:30 Eastern time on ABC. 49.5 point game there with 6.5 towards OU.
Auburn.
Oh, all right.
I know that's not the answer that you want to hear.
Well, I'm taking John Mateer. I'm a big Mateer fan. I'll stand on that until the end of it. I'm taking Oklahoma.
I'm not a John Mateer hater for those out there. I don't trust Oklahoma ever. Is my problem.
I get it.
I will say there is that's a 3:30 game, man. Auburn at Oklahoma. There is something about Oklahoma at night out there in Norman.
Yeah.
It is darker than anywhere else. And it looks magnificent.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be a good game. Are you taking the over the under?
49.5. Push. Can I pick 49.5? If someone could score a half a point, I'm sure they could.
I'm gonna take the over and I'm gonna take Oklahoma.
I think that number is dead on. You could go either or. I think it's going to be within 3 points of the over-under. How about that?
All right. Michigan at Nebraska, 3:30 game as well on CBS. 44.5 right now. 2.5 favored towards Michigan. 2.5 towards Michigan right now.
I got Nebraska. This is going to be Rayola's what do you want to say?
Game?
Breakout legacy. That's not really a breakout or legacy because I don't think Michigan's really that good. They're probably 8-4 team.
And I also want to say I believe this is one of the games Sharon Moore's not coaching for.
It is, yes, because he
So that's
coached last
obviously
week.
yeah.
He's out. We're going to make a bigger deal out of Nebraska beating Michigan than it probably should be, but
Yeah.
Nebraska's on their way.
I'm also very intrigued that with knowing Sharon Moore's out, they're still having Michigan favored. I'm taking Nebraska on the points, and I think they hit. I think it's going to be under.
I would agree with that too. Michigan's
be under.
defense is just too good.
Yeah.
Or they just play too slow of offense for it to hit the. It's like a combination of both.
Both. Illinois at Indiana, 52.5, 4.5 towards
Saturday
Indiana.
night.
Yeah, Saturday night, 4:30 on NBC. Love that theme song, by the way.
I do.
Adam hates it, but it's a great theme song.
Adam's a hater.
Yeah, dude, this one's really hard. I love both of these teams. I don't know who to take.
It's going to be a fantastic game. I like the over, but I like Illinois.
It's where I was leaning to. I really like Illinois, but I'm going to stick with Illinois. I'm gonna go Illinois too. I think with Altmaier just having been the consistent guy there, where Mendoza is still learning Indiana and all of that, I think that gives it a little bit of an edge. Even though it is in Indiana, that is a big deal as well. So the next two, they're just rivalry games, but no real. They're both favored big time. Washington's favored big time over Wazoo. In the Apple Cup. And I know they don't call it anymore, but Oregon versus Oregon State's always going to be the Civil War game. I don't care that you changed the name of it. All right. It's the Civil War.
What they change it to? Because I didn't even pay attention to that.
Nothing.
It's just nothing. We're no longer a rivalry.
No, it's a rivalry, but it's just Oregon versus Oregon State. It's not.
That's stupid.
They didn't make a name for it, or I don't know. It's really dumb. It should still be the Civil War thing, but regardless, obviously Washington's favored, I think, by like 18.5. Oregon's favored by like 20.5 right now. But they're rivalry games, man. You never know. Those are always games that will get played a lot closer than what the stat lines usually or money lines usually look like.
Wazoo, not good. Oregon State might even be worse.
Yes, very much.
Here's a better question. Who wins the Pac-2 this year?
Man, I can't wait for the Pac State conference. Let me tell you, that's going to be legendary. All right, they should just buy in fully on being the Pac State conference.
I don't hate it,
and just like everyone is a state school, just buy into it.
Who do they have? How many are they getting from the Mountain West right now? Is the entire Mountain West merging with them, or are they only getting 6 teams?
I think they're getting they get San Diego State, Fresno State, Boise State. And then I know they're getting, I think, Texas State, but that's not from Mountain West, obviously. I'm trying to forget who else. I don't know if they're getting San Jose State.
Okay.
I don't think they are.
It's going to be a G5.
Basically.
Conference.
Basically, it's going to be a G5, but they're trying to build it to be a power conference again. I mean,
the AAC is still going to be better than them. Excuse me. The American.
I think it's going to be close, man.
Do you?
I mean, Fresno State's been good. Boise State's been good. You're getting Wazoo, Oregon State, obviously. I think Texas State is.
They've been one of the better ones.
They've been one of the better ones, and if they're getting to a conference with more money and they're getting more influx in there, I think it could be interesting too. San Diego State, I mean, they've built good contender teams a while too, so I think they'll probably be better than the American. And then it'd be interesting to see how they have their backfill. Like there was the rumors about Sacramento State for a while, and that seems to be like a big push to make that a power school. You know, they've done a lot of money influx into that school.
They've dumped so much money into that.
Yeah. So they're trying to get a PAC invite. We'll see if that happens. But
got one more.
Okay.
I snuck the American in there for this nice transition. One more to keep an eye on. Tulane and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Tulane's getting 13.5 in Oxford, but Tulane might be pretty good.
Yeah. I think it comes down to if Austin Simmons plays.
Probably.
I think it comes down to that. If last week he was a game time decision, he didn't play with the ankle injury. Given that week off, does he play? If he plays, I'll take Ole Miss at the points. I think they're really good. So, Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Bat Flip Entertainment College Football Show. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what the game of the week you are looking for. And we will catch you guys back next week.
See ya.